Well, what to say? You know, usually the way that my week works is I start on Monday, and usually by Wednesday the sermon's done for Sunday. And then with Jamie calling and passing this light for the next on Thursday, and then Friday morning at 9:30 a.m. In Connecticut, the sermon that was ready for today vanished. It's gone. So I guess we'll talk about something this morning that we really don't talk a whole lot about in church, and that is feelings. You know, most of the time we go through life pushing a great big wheelbarrow in front of us, carrying a gigantic talking head, and that head is ours. And we hide our feelings behind this thing called intellect. And you have to admit, in our society, in our times, the ability to feel things is overtaken, overpowered by our thinking. We lose that part of us that feels, that reveals truth, that reveals what is right, that reveals compassionate love. You know, we are born with a perfect set of feelings. Instinctively, when we come out of the womb, we know how to cry when we hurt. We know how to shout when we're angry. We know how to get our parents' attention when we're hungry. When we're older, we know when to run when we're afraid, to jump with joy, to feel love. You know, and by the time we enter adulthood, we've lost the greatest of all of our gifts, and that's the ability to feel. You know, somewhere along the line, we get ashamed about our feelings, and we're taught to bind them up. You know, we've read about stories that we've seen on TV, those babies that were born in ancient China, they wrapped their feet. And even though they grew up to be healthy adults, they were crippled. And when we lose our ability to feel things, we become just as crippled as they are. We've been taught that our feelings are for the weak, that real men shouldn't cry. Feelings are something to be avoided, unless we fall into some dreadful pit for fear. Lose our ability to make rational decisions. To be called one of those touchy-feely kind of people. The crying is for the simpering, sentimental. Little boys shouldn't cry. And we go through life that way. And, when it comes to our feelings, we try to avoid them. We try to buck up, suck it up, be strong. We try to avoid our feelings like we do our crazy cousin who happens to go to the same church that we do. So we lost track of our ability to feel. And it's important that we feel things. God tells Joshua, as they're about to enter into the promised land, he says 3 times, don't fear, be of courage, don't be afraid. Go. Well, what he was saying there, he wasn't saying, look, don't have fear. He's saying, you don't have a phobia. Don't be so scared that you're disobedient to me. There's a difference between the two. There's a difference between an overwhelming fear that renders you incapable of acting than having a fear that shows you're alive. You know, a long time ago, actually probably about 20 years ago or so, I was defending an aggravated murder case in Franklin County, Columbus. And as we're preparing that case, we had a new associate attorney. And the way I try a case when I do it is I try to put myself in the position of my client, in the position of the judge, in the position of the jurors, those things. We're dealing with a client who was the only black man in the room. He was 24 years old. He'd been charged with shooting someone. And the associate was going to do the voir dire, which is the part of a jury trial where you ask questions of the potential jurors so you can select a jury. And I said, you know, how do you think our client feels? You know, how does he feel? And the first words out of his mouth were, I think. I said, I don't want you to think. I want you to feel. How does he feel? And most of us respond to things, I think. How do the people in Connecticut feel? I think they know. How do they feel? And Frank and Jamie's family, Russ, and those of you who've lost loved ones, you know, it doesn't matter so much how I think you feel, because I can't do anything to help you until I feel like you feel. And, you know, as we're getting ready for that trial, finally he came around to, well, I feel afraid. Well, who are you afraid of? Well, I'm afraid of those jurors. Why? Because there are a bunch of white people and I'm the only black guy in the room. And I think that they, you know, they may convict me just because I'm black. I'm afraid of the judge. I'm afraid of the prosecutor because the prosecutor may ask me questions that I don't know how to answer. I'm afraid of you. Because you don't know how I grew up. And that was the secret of Jesus during his ministry. That's why Scripture never says Jesus was empathetic with someone. It never says that he was sympathetic with someone. It says that he had compassion. He felt what they felt to the point that he was moved to do something about it. And that's the difference between those three words. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to cry. I sat in front of the TV Friday morning for most of that morning, and tears just rolled. Because the only thing I could think of were those little kindergartners down in Collier's that I was with every day. And, you know, some of them come in their brand new blue jeans and nice shirts. Some of them come in with snotty noses and matted hair. And some of them come in with, you know, a coat that costs a fortune, and the other one's just as dirty as it can be. But as kindergartners, they don't care. They don't care. They're still innocent that way. And I just couldn't get that out of my mind. They were just babies. You know, we've got teachers here today. How did the teachers feel? How did the principal feel at 9:30 Friday morning? What was their first concern? Were they afraid? Yes. But from all news reports, their first concern is to protect those babies. You know, maybe the next time you see a teacher, you should say thank you. You know, maybe that's why Jesus took the little children to himself. And when the disciples were trying to keep him away, he said, you know, let the little children come to me. Because unless you become like one of these, you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven. Because they're genuine. Because they know how to love without condition. Because they know how to have joy. They know how to express sorrow. They don't hide anything. They are real. And people, that's the secret of Christianity. You know, it's easy for us to come into a safe place like this, and we put on our nice clothes, and we put on our smile, and we act like nothing is going on around us. Then we leave here, and things are going on around us. People are hurting. And the world is a scary place. And bad things do happen. But until we learn how to connect, you know, we really can't fulfill the mission of Christ. Was Jesus ever sad? Lazarus too, he wept. Was he ever happy? I'd like to think that most of the time Jesus went through life, you know, when you shake your head at the disciples and give a half smile thinking, man, you guys ever going to get it or not? Was he ever afraid? Father, if there's any other way, let this cup pass from me. It's okay to feel things. But don't be overwhelmed by the emotion. You know, we always have this picture of Christianity of the Puritans, where, you know, you never smile, you never show emotion, you never feel anything, you never do any of those things. That's not the Christian thing to do. Read a little song sometime. You'll see joy, you'll see sorrow, you'll see pain, you'll see sickness, you'll see hurting, you'll see grief, you'll see life, you'll see death. The feelings that we have are great gifts from God. Because without the feelings, we'd just be robots. Our feelings show us that we're alive. So this week, pray for the families. Pray for the school system. Pray for those first responders that had to go into that school. Pray for James' grandkids, great-grandkids, for Frank. You know, when we learn how to feel and feel it genuinely, we can become a family rather than just a group of people that come together. I don't have a